Welcome back. So the code here is actually fine, it works, but let's say that I wanted to actually instead, when we start working with databases, maybe I do not want to pass in the status as its own field. Actually instead I want to pass in directly into the person. I want the status to be passed directly into the new person I just created. So let's just stop the application and try and change this. You can do that by saying, I just remove that and I'll go into the person just to show you how you can actually also do this. Now a person has a status, right? And the status, notice that's the name, the status. The status, if I go into that, has an ID. So what if I could dot my way through person.status.id equals something, right? You can actually do that. So the complex view, and this is very important to know, the complex model binding can actually do, using dotted references, you can actually go all the way into a person's objects, right? So you can dot your way through a system. So let me show you what I mean. Let's go into the create view again, and right now I say I want to put things into the status, right? But I can actually say I want to put this directly into the status.id. Oh, that's kind of awesome. So what it'll do is let me start the application while I explain this. So what it'll do is actually it'll go into the person controller and say a person has a status that has an ID. Then I'll just pass it directly in there. I need to do one more thing, of course. No, I do not want to run it because I know there's an error. Because now I also have to, of course, say, okay, then the ID I'm looking for is actually the one on person status ID, right? Now, this is because we've hard-coded the values that you see this. If this was an entity framework database that we'll do later, you wouldn't see this. It would just be behind the scenes taking care of all of this for you. But of course, I have to pull out now the person's status ID because that's what I'm defining now inside my view, right? Inside my create view, status.id. I hope that makes sense. Let's try and run it now. So the application is back up and running, and here we have Bill, and let's give him a status of available. And let me just show you again what it actually sends, because it's different now what it sends back. Before it just said status, but now it'll say status.id, and I'll try and explain to you why that is pretty powerful. I sent back the status again. Notice that it was actually, it went through, so it worked. Let's see what it actually sends back. It sends back status.id. Now the really cool thing here about the model binding is, the model binding is so intelligent that it'll say, okay, so let's have a look at a person. Well, a person, he has a status. So let's look at the person again. There he is. A person, he has a status. So I'll just start out by saying, okay, let's create a new person. He's created. Let's create a new person status. Person status is created. On the person status now, let's add the ID. Okay, so he just jumps through every creation that you need because I went in and specified, using a dot notation, I went in and specified you're going to add it to status.id. It'll just automatically populate that information for you. Again, that's Microsoft, good job. I really like it. Very powerful. And then we go in and we'll just pull it out from an extra step here saying person.status.id. So from the point of view of the current application, it's not that powerful right now because we just removed a single model binding here to just pull it out in a different way. But when you start working with the entity framework, this makes a lot of sense. So I just want to show you that. See you in the next lesson where we will try to make the edit work as well.